Chosen one. Before you decide that July 22nd and July 23rd are just another pair of ordinary days, I want you to listen with your spirit instead of your mind. Because there are moments on heaven's calendar that don't announce themselves with thunder. They arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, hidden inside ordinary hours that most people will never remember. Yet years later, they look back and realize those ordinary hours quietly redirected the entire course of their lives. I believe these next 48 hours carry that kind of atmosphere. Not because the world is about to stop. Not because everyone will suddenly witness some spectacular miracle. But because heaven often chooses the quietest moments to perform its deepest work. And if you've been feeling as though you're standing between two chapters, not fully connected to your past, yet not completely seeing your future, then don't ignore that feeling. You are not lost. You are positioned. There is an enormous difference. A person who is lost has no direction. A person who is being positioned simply cannot yet see where the road is leading. Chosen one. Perhaps heaven has been positioning you far longer than you realize. Have you noticed how certain things simply don't satisfy you anymore? The conversations that once entertained you now leave you emotionally empty. The goals that once seemed incredibly important suddenly feel strangely small. Even your prayers have changed. You're no longer asking God to simply remove every problem. You're asking Him to reveal His purpose through every problem. That is not a coincidence. That is spiritual growth. Heaven always changes your questions before it changes your circumstances. Because once your questions become wiser, your decisions naturally follow. Throughout this entire month, your soul has been quietly learning lessons your mind could never have learned through comfort alone. Every delay stretched your patience. Every unanswered prayer deepened your faith. Every unexpected goodbye sharpened your discernment. Every lonely night taught you that God's presence becomes strongest when every other voice grows silent. Nothing has been wasted. Not one tear, not one disappointment, not one hidden battle that nobody else ever knew you fought. Heaven has been gathering every one of those moments into something far greater than you can currently imagine. Mercury continues moving through its retrograde journey, asking you to revisit your thoughts before revisiting your plans, while the moon continues through Libra, gently encouraging balance, wisdom, peace, and relationships that reflect the person you have become instead of the wounds you've survived. Together, these energies quietly ask one extraordinary question. If God answered every prayer you've been praying today, would the version of you standing here now be ready to carry those answers tomorrow? That question deserves complete honesty. Because heaven has never delayed blessings out of cruelty. Sometimes heaven delays blessings out of mercy. A blessing received before the heart is prepared can quickly become another burden. But a blessing received after hidden preparation becomes something that lasts. Think about a master gardener planting an orchard. He does not become frustrated because fruit fails to appear the day after the seed enters the ground. He understands something many people forget. Growth follows invisible laws long before it becomes visible reality. Roots always grow before branches. Strength always comes before abundance. Preparation always comes before promotion. Chosen one. Perhaps that has been your story all along. While you believed heaven was making you wait, heaven was quietly making you ready. Chosen one. Before we continue any deeper, let me ask you for one small favor. If these words have already touched something deep inside your spirit, if you truly believe this message reached you in divine timing, then take 1 second to subscribe to this channel and leave a like on this video. You're not just helping this channel grow, you're helping this message reach another chosen one who may be praying for these exact words today. And if you're choosing to trust God's timing instead of your own, write these words in the comments. God's plan is greater. Don't type it for me. Type it as a declaration over your own life. Every subscription and every comment helps this message find someone whose faith may be hanging by a thread today. Now, stay with me, because what heaven begins revealing about July 22nd and July 23rd from this point forward may completely change the way you understand every season you've ever lived through. There is something heaven has been quietly preparing to reveal, chosen one, and almost nobody recognizes it while it's happening. Most people spend years asking God to open new doors, while heaven spends those same years creating a completely new person capable of walking through those doors without carrying yesterday's fear into tomorrow's promise. That transformation has already begun inside you. You may not fully recognize it yet, but the evidence is everywhere. You no longer chase what once controlled you. You no longer panic the way you once did when plans suddenly changed. The opinions that once shaped your confidence have begun fading into the background. Instead, a quiet peace has started growing where anxiety once lived. That peace is not accidental. It is the fingerprint of heaven reminding you that your future has never depended on perfect circumstances. It has always depended on a faithful heart willing to keep walking, even when the entire path has not yet been revealed. There is another truth, chosen one, that heaven rarely reveals until the heart has become quiet enough to receive it. Most people spend their lives asking, "When will God move?" But almost no one stops to ask, "What has God already been moving that I failed to notice?" That is the hidden mystery surrounding July 22nd and July 23rd. While many are waiting for a dramatic miracle, heaven is already arranging invisible details that will eventually become visible at exactly the right moment. The most extraordinary works of God have always begun in places where human eyes could not yet see. Before the butterfly ever spread its wings, it spent weeks hidden inside a cocoon where, to anyone watching from the outside, absolutely nothing seemed to be happening. But inside that hidden place, every part of its old identity was quietly being transformed. Chosen one, perhaps your life has been inside that same sacred process. You have mistaken stillness for stagnation. You have mistaken silence for absence. Yet heaven has been performing its greatest work where no one, not even you, could fully recognize it. That is why these 2 days carry such unusual spiritual weight. They are not simply asking you to wait. They are asking you to trust the transformation that has already begun. As Mercury continues its retrograde reflection, old memories, unfinished conversations, and forgotten dreams may quietly rise back into your awareness. Many people will see those memories as distractions, but heaven often uses remembrance to reveal healing. Not every memory returns so you can relive it. Some memories return so you can finally release them. At the same time, the moon's journey through Libra continues reminding you that true balance is not found by controlling every circumstance around you. It is found by allowing God's peace to govern what happens within you. Chosen one, this is why your reactions have changed so dramatically. There was a time when one negative conversation could steal your peace for days. There was a time when one disappointment could convince you that perhaps your prayers were being ignored. But now, something inside you has become steadier. You pause before reacting. You pray before speaking. You observe before deciding. That isn't weakness. That is wisdom replacing impulse. Heaven has quietly been teaching you to respond instead of react, because your future assignment will require emotional stability that your past identity simply did not possess. Imagine an old lighthouse standing beside the sea. For decades, it has watched storms rise and disappear. The waves have crashed against the rocks thousands of times. Ships have come and gone. Seasons have changed. Yet the lighthouse never chases the ships. It never argues with the wind. It never fears the darkness because it was built specifically for moments when darkness arrives. Chosen one, heaven has been transforming you into that lighthouse. There was once a time when every emotional storm convinced you to question your direction. Now the storms still come, but they no longer decide where you stand. They simply remind you why your foundation had to become so deep. This is one of the greatest gifts hidden inside July 22nd and July 23rd. Heaven is no longer asking whether you can survive difficult seasons. It is revealing that you have already survived them. The question has changed. Now heaven asks, will you use everything those seasons taught you? Perhaps that is why certain opportunities have begun appearing differently. Some doors that once looked exciting now feel strangely empty. Other opportunities that once seemed too small now quietly fill your spirit with peace. That is discernment. And discernment becomes one of your greatest spiritual protections during these next 48 hours. Not everything attractive belongs to your calling. Not everything urgent deserves your attention. The enemy often creates confusion through urgency, but heaven usually speaks through peace. That is why you must guard your spirit so carefully now. Every decision made from fear plants seeds of regret. Every decision made from peace plants seeds of purpose. As July 23rd approaches, allow yourself to move more slowly than the world expects. Listen more carefully than before. Pray more deeply than before. Do not allow the pressure of human timing to silence the quiet wisdom heaven has been patiently cultivating within you. Because what heaven is preparing beyond these 2 days does not require a hurried heart. It requires a faithful one. And perhaps, chosen one, that faithful heart has been the miracle God was preparing all along. Chosen one. There comes a moment in every divine journey when heaven quietly removes the final layer of doubt before revealing the next assignment. Most people believe this moment will arrive with undeniable certainty, but heaven has never depended upon certainty to accomplish his purpose. He has always depended upon faith. That is why July 22nd and July 23rd carry such extraordinary spiritual significance. These are not days designed to answer every question. They are days designed to reveal how much your heart has already changed. Think back to the person you were before this year began. You prayed differently. You feared differently. You viewed yourself differently. Every obstacle felt permanent. Every delay felt personal. Every silence convinced you that perhaps heaven had forgotten your name. Yet here you are today. The storms did not destroy you. The waiting did not break you. The disappointments did not erase your calling. Instead, they quietly became the very tools God used to shape the person now standing at the edge of an entirely new chapter. Chosen one. That is not survival. That is transformation. And transformation always comes before manifestation. There is a reason Scripture continually reminds us that God looks at the heart while the world looks at appearances. Heaven has never been impressed by visible success without inner maturity. That is why your hidden seasons lasted as long as they did. They were never punishment. They were preparation. Imagine a musician carefully tuning every string of a priceless instrument before a concert. To the audience waiting outside, the tuning seems slow and unnecessary. They only want the performance to begin. But the musician understands something they do not. One string left untuned can affect every note that follows. Chosen one. Heaven has been tuning your spirit with that same careful precision. Every delay adjusted your patience. Every unanswered prayer refined your trust. Every unexpected ending strengthened your discernment. Nothing happened randomly. Every hidden adjustment prepared your soul to carry the melody of the future God has already composed for your life. As Mercury continues encouraging reflection, heaven quietly reminds you that wisdom is not measured by how quickly you move. Wisdom is measured by how faithfully you move. At the same time, the moon's continued journey through Libra gently emphasizes balance in your relationships, your decisions, and even the conversations taking place inside your own mind. Chosen one. Listen carefully to those inner conversations. Are they still repeating the language of fear? Or have they begun speaking the language of faith? That difference determines more than you realize. The words you continually believe become the direction your life eventually follows. Heaven has been patiently replacing lies with truth. Lies that told you you were forgotten. Lies that told you you had missed your opportunity. Lies that whispered someone else was more qualified for the purpose prepared specifically for you. Those lies cannot survive where truth has finally taken root. There is another mystery hidden inside these 2 days. Sometimes God delays visible promotion because invisible humility is still being perfected. Imagine placing a crown upon someone who has never learned to serve. The crown would become dangerous instead of meaningful. Heaven always develops humility before influence, because influence without humility eventually destroys both the blessing and the person carrying it. Looking back now, perhaps you can finally understand why heaven spent so much time working on your character instead of your circumstances. Character remains when circumstances change. Character protects what blessings alone never could. That is why July 23rd quietly marks more than another date on the calendar. It represents the growing realization that your greatest victory was never becoming successful. Your greatest victory was becoming faithful. And perhaps that is the final invitation these 2 remarkable days place before every chosen one. Stop asking heaven to prove that your future exists. Begin living as though God's promises are already more real than your fears. Walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that delays never cancel divine appointments. Protect your peace even when the world rewards panic. Choose discernment over urgency. Choose obedience over comfort. Choose faith over visible evidence. Because one day you will stand inside the very season you've spent years praying for, and you'll discover something extraordinary. The blessing itself will be beautiful, but it will not be the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle will be realizing that while you spent years asking God to change your life, He was patiently creating a version of you capable of carrying that life without losing your peace, your purpose, or your faith. So as July 22nd quietly becomes July 23rd, remember this above everything else. Chosen one, you are no longer waiting for heaven to begin your story. Heaven has been writing every chapter from the very beginning. Every hidden season had meaning. Every unanswered prayer carried purpose. Every delay protected something your eyes could not yet see. Now continue walking forward with courage, because beyond July 23rd, another door is already beginning to open. And this time, you won't approach it wondering whether you belong there. You'll walk through it knowing that God prepared both the door and the person who was always meant to enter it. Chosen one, before this message comes to its final moments, there is something about July 22nd and July 23rd that your spirit needs to understand. Heaven has not been preparing these 2 days simply to change your circumstances. It has been preparing them to reveal how much you have already changed. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey where the greatest miracle is no longer the door that opens. It is the person standing confidently before that door. Think about how different your heart has become. There was a time when uncertainty immediately produced fear. Now, uncertainty often produces expectation. There was a time when delays convinced you that heaven had forgotten you. Now delays remind you that God's calendar has never been controlled by human urgency. There was a time when rejection made you question your value. Now rejection quietly reminds you that not every place deserves your presence. Chosen one, that is not coincidence. That is evidence that heaven has been transforming your identity one hidden season at a time. Imagine an eagle flying above a violent storm. From the ground, people only see dark clouds, heavy rain, and powerful winds. They assume everything above them must be chaos. But the eagle knows something they do not. Instead of fighting the storm, it rises higher until it reaches the peaceful air above the clouds. The storm is still happening below, but it no longer controls the eagle's direction. Spiritually, heaven has been teaching you to fly exactly the same way. The storms around you may not have disappeared overnight. Some prayers are still unfolding. Some questions are still waiting for their appointed answers. But your spirit has risen above the fear those storms once created. You are no longer making every decision from panic. You are beginning to make them from peace. And peace has always been one of heaven's clearest confirmations. Fear rushes. Peace waits. Fear demands immediate answers. Peace quietly trusts that the one who began the work will faithfully complete it. As July 23rd continues unfolding, Mercury's retrograde reflection gently reminds you to learn from every chapter without becoming trapped inside it. At the same time, the moon continues encouraging balance, wisdom, and relationships that support your growth rather than your wounds. These energies are not asking you to become someone new overnight. They are asking you to fully accept the person God has already been patiently creating through every hidden battle you've survived. Chosen one, perhaps this is why your heart has become more protective of its peace. You no longer feel the need to attend every argument. You no longer chase every opportunity. You no longer explain yourself to people who have already chosen misunderstanding over truth. That isn't pride. That is discernment. Heaven has quietly taught you that your purpose is too valuable to be distracted by every voice calling for your attention. There is one final lesson hidden inside these remarkable days. Every farmer understands that harvest does not arrive because of one perfect day. It arrives because of hundreds of faithful days that nobody celebrates. Seeds were planted when no one was watching. The soil was watered long before anyone expected fruit. Weeds were removed in silence. Seasons passed. Storms came and went. Yet the farmer remained faithful because he trusted the process more than his emotions. Chosen one, your destiny has been growing exactly the same way. Every prayer whispered in secret became another seed. Every act of obedience became another drop of water. Every difficult decision strengthened roots that your future blessings will one day depend upon. Nothing has been wasted. Heaven remembers every hidden act of faith, even when the world quickly forgets it. So before July 22nd and July 23rd become another memory, carry this truth into every step that follows. Stop asking whether your breakthrough is still coming. Begin recognizing that your breakthrough quietly began the moment your faith became stronger than your fear. Continue protecting your peace. Continue listening when heaven whispers instead of waiting for it to shout. Continue trusting divine timing even when the road ahead remains partially hidden. Because somewhere beyond these 2 days, another chapter is already waiting for you. And when that chapter finally opens, you will understand why every hidden season, every unanswered prayer, every painful goodbye, and every unexpected delay had to happen exactly as they did. The blessing will be beautiful, but the greater miracle will be the person heaven created while preparing you to receive it. Walk forward with confidence, chosen one. Your story has never been controlled by the darkness surrounding the path. It has always been guided by the light waiting beyond the next faithful step. And that light has been leading you every single day, even when you believed nothing at all was happening.